Will Florida State keep it close against Notre Dame, or are they going to get run over like they were against North Carolina?
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith. Thank you to everyone making this your first listen each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles with me. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Here it is, the game that everybody knows Florida State's going to lose, but can A, they at least keep it close, and B, are they going to show heart and determination? I saw signs of players quitting against North Carolina, especially that defense when they were putting up 8-10 guys at the line of scrimmage in basic inside zones and dive kind of plays. We're getting chunk yardage plays, 6, 8, 10, 12 yards. That's not going to get it done. We're going to find out in this game, and that's why I'm starting with the matchup, Florida State's defense against Notre Dame's offense. Who's got more heart and who wants to be out there to wear that Seminoles gold helmet with the garnet? It's one of the most cool helmets in all of football. But is everybody going to earn it? Right now, I have a lot of doubts about that, and I am flat out calling Florida State players out because I'm going to start calling out names. I didn't do it last week after the Carolina game, but we are now on point. There are guys that are showing me not near enough determination. It's time to start talking about it. So I'm going to break down the players ad nauseum for Notre Dame. They've got a lot of really talented players. Situationally, what they do, what you can look for from them. But again, this game, more than anything else, if you take nothing else from this episode, think about the following. Does Florida State's defense from play one to the end of the game, no matter what the score is, do they play with maximum effort and consistency? That is a yes or a no. Right now, I'm leaning hard no. Prove me wrong, as I often say on this show. So let's get started. There are several players, again, for Notre Dame that are talented, but it's more than anything else a unique offense because they're a little conservative. They've got a great D. I'll talk about that a little bit throughout the week, go over their statistics and some of their players. But offensively, they spread it around, and it's very difficult to dial into one player they're going to give the ball to. Jeremiah Love is their best player, in my opinion, on offense. He's just nasty. He's 18th in the nation with players that he's made miss in space. He had 11 guys that he made miss a tackle against A&M in the first game of the year. 11. When he is on fire, Notre Dame's offense is hard because he's not only a burner, he hits the corner, it's over. He's a track kid. He could have put away the cleats and been a track kid out of high school, had an offer from every school in the country out of St. Louis. And he's turned into not only a good football player, but one that's a lot more physical than I thought he would be when I saw him in high school. He was a guy that tried to take everything at the perimeter when I watched him play in high school, whether live or in like the Under Armour game, et cetera. There were very few plays that he didn't try to bounce. Now he's trying to hit you in the mouth. And every now and then you think he's going to do that and he'll shake and make you miss. It's not a whole lot different than what Omarion Hampton did for Carolina, except Love has an extra gear. Hampton might be the better pure running back. Love is the more dynamic running back. So that's number one. Can you slow him down? 2, Riley Leonard, short yardage, he's probably getting the ball. It's unique, like I said. How often does a 6'4", 225 guy at quarterback who has at least some aspiration, I question it, on trying to make it to the National Football League, end up being your 3rd down and 1 and 3rd down and 2 option? They're unique. I'll give them that. Notre Dame finds a way. They also have Jadarian Price at running back. They got a kid named Williams, Kedron Young. Those are 2 freshmen. They're nasty at running back. But when they suck you in is when you can get in trouble. They don't hit a bunch of big plays, but they're starting to run more and more RPO. And to that point, matter of fact, I should probably just pull up Riley Leonard in general here. Got his rushing stats, but his passing stats are even more curious, if you will. Their last game against Navy handed the ball over to him 6 times, which is ridiculous. But he was 13 of 21, not huge numbers in terms of passing attempts. Well, he didn't have to. They ran all over him because they're bigger and they shoved him around. 61.9%, 178 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He RPO'd them to death. because they got the inside zone game going. They'll run some gap, pull the tackle and guard. They're athletic and all that up front, but they have been extremely unfortunate with injuries. They've had like 4 guys injured up front this year, in and out of the lineup. I do believe their best pure offensive lineman, right guard Billy Schrouth, is back. That's not good news. He is a flat-out NFL player in terms of talent. Is he healthy? Probably not, but he's a 310-pound man that wants to maim you. Florida State, after the way they did not protect the A and B gaps against the Tar Heels, that gives me a lot of pause. And left tackle Anthony Knapp, he has a lot of problems with speed rushers. Florida State should give him problems. Well, if it's second down and 4, he's going to have fewer. He's a powerhouse, but he's not the greatest guy in pass pro. I think that Knapp is a guy you can get after him. He's their left tackle. He shouldn't be there, but they lost their left tackle in fall camp. They're not going to be able to expose him as much if it's second and 4. So Schrouth being back is a problem. They lost their center. I think he's an NFL player. He's out for the year. Again, they've been banged up. But the guy they had at center at one point a couple of years ago is back there now. He's a senior. He's a good player. He's not great, but he's at least efficient. Notre Dame will have their moments inside running the ball, but Florida State can't just get gouged. They can't just be annihilated like they were against the Tar Heels. That's my concern, number one, just kind of thinking about it out loud. But here are some other numbers for Notre Dame. This is just them overall as an offense. Rushing 216.5, that's 13th in the nation, not surprising. Again, quarterback, 4 running backs, they get after it. Passing game is pedestrian. 106th in the nation, 190.5. It's a little bit better over the last few games, but this is really amazing. Their biggest passing game of the year is 229 against Stanford for Riley Leonard to start. Now they've had a few more yards because they had some backups in, but Leonard's biggest game is 229. They are not a huge passing team. Total 407 a game. That's 53rd in the nation. Scoring, though, they maximize. 36.6, that's 18th. Why? Red zone. Out of their 28 trips into the red zone, 22 have resulted in the Irish scoring a touchdown. Really good, 78.6%. Big passing plays. Again, not surprising. They are terrible at it. 20 yards and above. They only have 16 on the year. That's atrocious. It's 122nd in the nation. I expect to see bump and run to a certain degree from Florida State with a caveat. Here's the thing. Notre Dame's going to try to get Leonard and their running backs and the receivers in space, short passes or runs, get him to the perimeter. If you run off the corner and he's in man, you can run right behind him if you're the quarterback or running back on a tall sweep or something. They don't even know they're there. Man coverage is very dangerous against Notre Dame. I'm especially concerned about Riley Leonard having like 10 carries for 120 yards because he scores on a 70-yard broken play. He's capable. He can really run. Also, this is where what I was talking about. I am concerned on 20-yard plays is when they run the ball. They got 16 of them. They have several in like the 40, 50-yard range because they have speed everywhere at the skill spots. They're just not always consistent with it, except for Love. Love's really good. Jadarian Price, he's a boomer bust guy. If he makes the first guy miss, it's a house call. He's as fast a player as there is in college football around the edge. He's their backup running back. He might even be faster than Love. I'd love to see those two race, actually. That is not somebody you can lose contain against. And what does Florida State struggle with? Losing contain. Very, very dangerous player. Turnovers, they only have 8 on the year. That's 26th in the nation. Pretty good. And we've only given up 10 sacks. Kind of surprising to me. But you got to remember, Leonard is mobile. And he's also very savvy in the pocket. I've discussed how Kromenhoek and Glenn, they're freshmen, redshirt freshmen. They're struggling with that. Riley Leonard is not. Not only is he hard to tackle in the backfield, he has a good pocket presence, and he will take off at a moment's notice. If you struggle with your pass rushing lanes, he will not only make a first down, he can score. I don't care if he's on his own 5-yard line. If he makes that first guy miss, he has an incredible ability to continue to bounce off tacklers. Cannot let him get loose. So, again, they've only given up 10 sacks. Third downs, they're okay. They've gotten better, but they're only at 41.1%, which is 59th in the nation. It's whatever. As far as Leonard, this is where it gets kind of funky. He's leading an offense that is just up and down week to week. If you can play pressure D on the outside like the Noles can, 3rd and 5 and above, Florida State should eat unless Leonard gets loose on the perimeter. They were 8 for 13 against Navy, but only 4 for 12 against Tech. Georgia Tech doesn't have a great defense, but Notre Dame's receivers and tight ends didn't do a good job. But the week before against Stanford, they struggled in the secondary. They got some problems. They were 6 for 11. Florida State is better than Georgia Tech in the secondary physically. There's no reason they shouldn't cause Notre Dame some problems in those 3rd and 5 and aboves. Let's see how that plays out. The other area that I'm worried about a little bit is throwing to the running backs again, the screens. Jadarian Price or Jeremiah Love. Love, just as an example, 16 catches, 147 yards, 9.2 and a score. This is the kind of game where they might put him at receiver. They've done it a few times in the last few games, either run a slant or just a screen. He's really adept, again, at making guys miss. He has 41 tackles that he has made miss this year. 41. That is a lot. As far as Florida State's defense, we'll talk about that and some of the things that I think they need to do to kind of slow down Notre Dame next, because quite honestly, if they don't get some of the things that I'm about to talk about to work from the outset, this game could absolutely get out of hand. Our friends over at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate football fan isn't just a hobby, it's a way of life. It takes a lot of energy to power through all-day tailgaters, touchdown celebrations, or an agonizing second overtime, which is why we've created Stay in the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot, a special flavored called Fan Fuel, the energy shot made just for super fans like us, the fans who are first in the parking lot and the last to leave. We see you. So even if you're just staying at home to watch the Notre Dame Florida State game, you're going to have a spread laid out for friends to watch the game, or you're going up to South Bend to check out all the tradition of the Notre Dame campus, this is the opportunity for you. 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you root for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. Whether you're prepping for the big tailgate or ironing your jersey, your game day is always a mile long. What's your fan fuel this week? Whatever it is, do it with 5 Hour Energy. Available on 5hourenergy.com, shipped nationwide. All right. Can Florida State get to a point here where they're going to make any effort not just to create negatives, but tackle well, gang tackle, fly to the ball, make it happen across the board the way a defense should, and the way they quite honestly didn't against North Carolina, especially in that second half, where looking at the numbers from that game, they gave up over 250 yards to one player receiving and rushing in Marion Hampton. I don't think one guy will do that for Notre Dame, but collectively they have 5 different guys that are going to carry the ball, plus somebody like a Chris Mitchell or Jordan Faison, a couple guys I'll talk about in a second that may get a reverse or take a short pass and score. How balanced is Florida State, and do they hustle? All the numbers I'm going to talk about here need to be increased because of their hustle this week against Notre Dame, or it's not going to be pretty. So this is where Florida State's D stands right now after 9 games. Rushing defense. This is horrendous. This should never, ever happen at Florida State, and it's why I put it first. This is embarrassing. 191.4 yards. That's what Florida State averages in allowing an opposing rushing offense. 115th in the nation. It's ridiculous. Passing 201.3. It's not horrible, but it's not great, and they are especially bad at giving up big plays, and here's my point. They are 60th in the nation because they've given up 25 passing plays of 20 yards or more. Runs, a little bit embarrassing here. They've given up a whole bunch of those. They're 122nd in the nation. Come on, man. They're just terrible. They're 117th or 122nd with 17 of them. They're awful. Turnovers, they've only created 3. Dead last in the NCAA. Dead last. They have not created a turnover since the SMU game. 3 on the season. Just a joke. Scoring. 27.3. That is 86th in the nation. Total offense total defense, 392.8. That is 96th. Sacks. This is what's wild. They're actually decent in sacks. They got 22. That's 23rd in the nation. Yet their third down defense is 123rd at 46.3. How in the world are you good at rushing the passer but can't stop teams on third down? Mental problems in the secondary, switches, not playing one man to the next, banjoing, doing different things, trading guys off. They don't do a good job with it. That is coaching. That's a lack of effort, lack of chemistry, and quite honestly, just a lack of communication. Florida State needs to get over that. I've been saying it all year. It's ridiculous. They're 31st in the nation with 56 tackles for loss. They're going to need several against Notre Dame. And they do have, again, they got some young guys up front. Anthony Knapp is a guy I mentioned. Rocco Spindler may or may not be in the game. But if Shrouth is back, he's a little slow. I think Florida State can take advantage of him. There might be the left guard, depending on how they do the lineup, might be a younger guy. They've mixed their lineup a little bit. Florida State should be able to create some penetration and get into the backfield against the Irish. If they don't, it's on them. All right. As far as the players that I'm worried about matchup-wise, maybe the guy that I'm most concerned about, besides like the guys in the backfield, is Jordan Faison, and here's why. Smaller receiver. He's from Florida, Fort Lauderdale. He came to Notre Dame on a lacrosse scholarship, which is wild. Ended up being good at football, and the rest is history. Well, in the last game, he was targeted 5 times, had 4 catches for 52 yards, and he's their Ja'Kai Douglas, for lack of a better word. Not as built as Ja'Kai. Shorter in stature, makes the first guy miss, and really a pain to tackle one-on-one. Florida State is not a good tackling team. I'm worried he's going to take a tunnel screen for 80 yards and a score. That guy, along with Chris Mitchell, guy that played at FIU last year, as a grad student now at Notre Dame, he can fly. It's been a little underwhelming on has like 13 receptions this year, but he's got 2 TDs in the last 3 games. They use him in the RPO game. Florida State better be careful or he will smoke them. Other than that, I mean, Bo Collins is their best receiver, but they know him because he played at Clemson. Excuse me. He's got 28 catches, 359, 12.8 per, and he's got 2 touchdowns. He's a good player, but he's not dominant, and Riley Leonard isn't always on time. The last point on this, Leonard's sometimes hot and sometimes he's cold. You just don't know what you're going to get with him. It's a night game in November in South Bend. It's probably going to be crappy weather. I doubt the passing game for the Irish is the thing you got to worry about, but they will throw a few of them up. If you are not ready for that, it's going to be a problem. Otherwise, this is what I think Florida State needs to do. This is just my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. You got to challenge them. 7 in the box, if not 8 in the box. They'll run 12 personnel, 1 running back, tight end, and H-back, moving in motion. They're going to have to adjust. This is another team that is going to use a lot of shifts and motions. Mike Denbrock is their coordinator. He's the guy that was at LSU last year. Excellent offensive coordinator. He's the highest paid OC in college football at over $2 million a year. He's going to challenge Notre Dame or Florida State's young linebackers, Cryer, Graham, and those guys, Nicholson. He's going to try to out-leverage those guys. And I'm telling you, if you haven't watched them this year, Love, Price, even Leonard, if you give them the edge, it's going to be a chunk yardage play. And Price or Love, it's a touchdown. Those are track stars in pads. If you lose the edge, you can strike up the band. And that's why I think this game could get out of hand. The worst losses in Florida State history are the Georgia game last year, 73. They lost 49-0 to Florida, and they lost one other game like 59-10 way back when. This has a chance to be as bad as the Georgia game if they flat out lay down and quit like they did against Georgia. I mean, that game had a lot of guys not in it, but a lot of guys didn't really want to be there once they realized the talent of Georgia and they're overmatched. That's kind of a weird game. But this isn't one of those situations. You got all your players, but are they in it for you? You're going to find out quick because Notre Dame's going to try to smash them. And here's a really key point. Notre Dame is on the borderline, like they're 10th. As I do this show in the AP poll, and they're going to be somewhere in the top 12 and be in the playoff picture when they come out the Tuesday rankings, the first one for the playoff committee. They're trying to improve their ranking. If they're up 35-0 in the middle of the third quarter, that ain't going to matter. They're going to still throw it. They're going to leave starters out there a little longer. They need style points. If Florida State's screwing around, they're going to hammer them. They'll try to beat them 56-0. They want the hammer to drop. Florida State needs to be mentally prepared for that from play 1 through the fourth quarter's final whistle. When we come back, I'm going to talk about a few things that I think could go right and my 3 biggest concerns for this football game. Get ready to tackle the NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. What are three things that Florida State can do to at least keep this game close and improve as a defensive unit? Here are my takes on that subject. Number one, and this shouldn't be a problem. It's the one thing Florida State statistically has done, and they have the athletes to do, and their defense is set up to do. Pressure Notre Dame with their four, maybe mix a few blitzes in. But again, they have to stay in their rush lanes and be consistent because winter can burn you, and the speed in the backfield for the Irish can too. Second, everybody that's a Florida State fan will vote for this. Just tackle better. For the love of mankind. What was going on in the second half of that North Carolina game? A sophomore at some random school in Tallahassee that's never going to sniff college could have ran for 10 yards in some of those plays. It's a lack of effort. Florida State didn't break down and tackle. And quite frankly, they deserve to be embarrassed because they didn't apply the effort necessary that deserves to be there when you wear that Florida State helmet. Let's see better tackling. Finally, it was the SMU game on the 28th of September, the last time the Noles created a turnover. Not only do they need multiple turnovers, they need a scoop and score, a pick six. Leonard's capable. He throws it into harm's way once in a while. They need something to give them momentum in the first or second quarter. That's it. They absolutely have to do it. When is it going to happen? They've got to finally get there. Now, here are the three things that really concern me, and we talked about it a little bit on this show and a whole bunch after the show, on the live show, after the UNC game. Notre Dame is an inside power zone running team, a mano. So is North Carolina. How did that work out for the Noles? You're going to get even more talent with Notre Dame, more depth, and a quarterback. Chris Will could run, but not like Riley Leonard. This could be a bludgeoning. If Florida State's players even remotely begin to quit, take a bad angle, like that play on the shovel pass where Shaheem Brown took one of the worst angles of the year, Notre Dame will light up that scoreboard, and they'll be doing the Irish jig all night long. They have to play with effort and just really gang tackle in the middle of the field. 2, this is something you don't necessarily control, but you at least got to mitigate it. If Riley Leonard is on target early in the game, RPO is probably where he'll do it, and they'll design a few flat passes to the tight end, et cetera. They're really talented there, but they don't use them a ton. That could get him rolling. 2nd, 6, 2nd, and 5 for them on a few short passes, and they get the ball to Love and Price in space, screen, outside zone, toss play, whatever. They're pretty basic, and they just try to out-talent you. They can be a hindrance in a lot of ways with the run game. They just need the passing game to be complementary. If Leonard is on, are you getting to the quarterback or changing anything in the back 7 to make him think? When he starts thinking, he's not accurate. Underthrows a lot of balls when he thinks. He will hold on to the ball too long, and like you'll see his technique gets funky. But if he starts fast and you're not pressuring him, this could spiral out of control. Finally, this is something that I know is going to happen to a certain degree, but especially on the first drive. Notre Dame's going to script some plays with a lot of motions and shifts with their tight ends and receivers and try to leverage Florida State, make them think that like the receiver will come in, act like an H-back, block for a second. They're going to run some kind of deep play that's basically a trick play out of some of their formation. It's coming. Again, they need style points to impress the College Football Playoff Committee for the second time they bring out the poll in just over a week. Florida State better be ready. Those safeties better not bite too hard because you're going to see some shots. Notre Dame doesn't hit a lot of big plays, but it's not due to a lack of speed. Faison can fly. Chris Mitchell can absolutely fly. Jaden Harrison, a backup slot, can fly. And they have other good players too. So they'll throw deep to a lot of players, really. Their tight ends can run, and they can make you look bad in 50-50 situations. Like Bo Collins is like 210. That's a big dude. Leverage, concentration, knowing where you're at on the field and not biting too hard is important. You got to know what you're looking for because Notre Dame is going to run a lot of different stuff. So the film preparation for the defense this week is probably as important as what you're going to see on the gridiron when Norvell takes his team out to the field. Because if you're not ready for all their formations, you can put yourself in a really poor position and give up easy points. Notre Dame has enough talent. You don't need to hand them anything else. That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Seminoles. Truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles with me. Please hit that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe to this podcast if you have not already. Share it if you would, and comment on YouTube. And go see my guys Kenton Gibbs and Alex Dono over at Locked On ACC next. I will talk to you again on Tuesday.